Who'd you talk to? What's going on? It's me, Mike Liberty King, Michael. I don't know why I'm getting with this voice, but this is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. It is January 21st, 2024. So for the math geeks, let's do it. Oh boy. 4 minus 2 is 2, plus 2 is 4. And then you just add the other side up, you get 4. We'll call it 4s for the evening. Joining me as always, Sarah Paranormal. What's up, Sarah?
Taking a break from playoff football to talk some good paranormal content. And so anybody else that's doing that, we should remind them to like and subscribe to the channel. It's free. Helps everyone out.
Taking a break from watching the Bills game sure would help a lot.
It's a great segue.
It's tied up 3-3 as we speak. No need to worry. Joining us as always is I gotta get ready for this name. Sin Schrader Hill, author. What's up, Sin?
Nothing. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
I missed you, Sin.
I'm doing good.
I missed you too, Sarah.
I missed you. I haven't seen you in so long. We haven't been on the same shows. It's gonna be fun.
Oh.
There's a lot been happening in the paranormal world. A lot of stuff, a lot of positive stuff, a lot of negative stuff. A lot of people that open their mouths, a lot of people that keep their mouths shut. You know,
and
up, down, north, south, to west. We have somebody on there tonight, guys. We've had on the show before. I want to call him Evolving. He's just open to ideas and moving, and he's one of those people, and he has like it scares me, his outlook, because I think he may be right, and if that's the case, we might be in trouble. But joining us is Nathaniel Gillis. What's up, man? How you been?
It's great to be with you guys. I'm on, for some reason there's like a 3 or 4 second lag, so I don't know if I need to get out of here and then like come back in. But it's great to be with you. I've always, whenever I've been on with you, King Michael, and it's great to see you. And in addition to Sarah and Sin Schrader Hill, it's a pleasure. Really, it is. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. If it's a delay too much like a baseball game, then you back in, back out. But if it's
right, absolutely,
you let me know. Nathaniel, I want to explain you to Sin and Sarah now, because it's weird. I watched some of your recent stuff, and then it's like I went back. I'm thinking when I watched, because it's been years. Like I think you literally were in year 1, you are in year 2, we're on year 3, and this is it. I don't want to say you've changed. Let's not say that. You've evolved. How right or wrong am I on that?
I think if you're a good researcher, you have to evolve. That's the problem. When you're approaching this phenomenon, it is also evolving. It's not monolithic. It's not static. So if we can, as researchers, evolve along with it and try to understand it more and more, then yes, and that's what I've done. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I'm doing it.
I want you to explain your research. I'm trying not to use the D word, which nowadays everybody gets upset if I use it or if I don't use it. It's actually become a word that I have to use the initial to say it. But if maybe you want to explain it, the floor is yours, so that way I don't use that word. You know what I mean.
So for sure. I approach the phenomenon as a singular intelligence. That's my perspective. And in doing so, looking at different incarnations of this intelligence as it's evolved according to our awareness of it throughout history. There's a lot in that sense.
Mhm.
So that one of these incarnations is in fact the demon as it was interpreted by our ancestors. And so I have approached this phenomenon through that lens, not in terms of trying to define it as such, right? But how would our ancestors have interpreted being captive, right, by some intelligence that tries to self-replicate through their wombs? How would they have interpreted it? And so I guess if the intelligence is a mountaintop, I've climbed on the side of the mountain by virtue of demonology. So that's really what it is.
So here's the thing with that, right? So I always talk about it, and when I use the word demons, everyone freaks because they get religious
Right.
on me, and I'm just trying to say something. But we've on the show evolved to a point where I think, Sarah, you'll agree, we kind of see it as the same thing. Like
Right.
if we were of the aliens, what we would see as aliens
Mhm.
back then, they would see as a demon. Like,
Yep.
right, Sarah? Am I wrong?
I think you're correct. I think that, the frame of reference, obviously, frame of references are also currently evolving, right? So we can't have expected people 300 years ago to call something a term they had never heard of, which would have been an extraterrestrial,
Right.
an alien, interdimensional, whatever. But we've agreed that these are all possibly the same things. So maybe even aliens, demons, other terms people might want to use for it, jinn, no matter what organized religion we're talking about, it's the same thing.
You're right, I think, and that puts us into a it's a nebulous conversation because it's like with King Mike Houseout, okay? When people hear the word demon, they think it's like salvific or something. Like if you don't believe they're demons, you're going to hell. It's like, well, in order to have an intellectual conversation about this phenomenon, we have to realize, number one, that it wasn't just that our ancestors perceived this phenomenon as demonic, but this intelligence leaned into that mask for a period of time, inspired these illustrations and perceptions of it, even to the point in which our literature, they were being abducted in demonic flights. And then the phenomenon would put a theatrical production in front of them and feed into that mask. And so, yes, that's why I believe that demonology should have a seat at the table. Again, not in the sense of trying to define the origin of this phenomenon or anything like that, but if you strip these case studies in antiquity from their religious narratives, what you have are experiences and experiencers that line directly up with what we're witnessing right now in modernity. If that is the case, which I believe it is, the evidence suggests it is, then it's possible this is not all love and light. Right? Now we can reincorporate these case studies back into the fold, and in doing so, now we have a better understanding. It's not just, okay, yes, they're replicating through the wombs of women. No, why were they doing that? Right? It wasn't consensual to a large degree. So I think that's what we're starting to see. And if anything, demonology, like I said, is getting a seat at the table once again where it belongs.
So, Sin, two things that I want you to pick out from what you just said. One, the demons, right? When you think demons, you think the red, almost like a red devil. Does that pop in your head, Sin?
Not now.
Well, I mean, all right. Before this show, before your mind was warped.
Before I was warped, it was more like exorcist shit. Excuse my language.
Now, see, the other part I want to see if you caught was the wombs, the coming out of wombs. Nathaniel, this is where you're going to have to almost fill me in.
Yeah, explain.
Because you slipped that by me. And they're going to be going in. So
Yeah. So what's happening?
It's like, tell me the birds and bees, Dad.
Well, primarily, this phenomenon has a victimology that has been centered around the womb, period. And I say that with intention because what it does is it will self-replicate its species. And so in antiquity, we perceive these beings as dream demons because essentially what they would do is they would encounter a female, they would induce them into a dreamlike state. And in this encounter, the entity would mask itself as a deceased loved one, a lover, a boyfriend of sorts. And that experiencer would think, number one, this is just a nightmare. Number two, okay, I guess I'm dreaming about my ex-boyfriend. And then the next day they would wake up, go to work, go about their usual life. And then they would look at their wrists and ankles. They would find bite marks, scarifications, and ligature marks that directly correlated with what they thought was a nightmare. And so that is where the incubus legend comes to the fore.
So, like fingerprints on the inner thighs, bruise marks, things like that, are all sign of this phenomenon. Now, I'm just not trying to freak you out, Sarah, but here's the thing with this. I didn't understand how big it was as far as women claiming to have been, while they slept, right, by aliens. But I'm not joking when I say that. Like, that's not something someone comes up to me at the bars that's talking to me about. That's not stuff we talk about. But that's actually something I had someone search me out to tell me that story, and they've never told anyone in their whole lives. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I was like, wow. Like, that actually is, I'm not saying it's true or it's not true because I don't know. What do I know? All I'm saying is she was very, very, like, sold on the idea that this was a once lifetime thing that she's never been able to tell anybody her whole life. Like, if she was an actress, she's amazing. Put her in the next Disney flick, help them out. She was amazing, but I don't think she was acting. Now, Sarah Sin, have you guys ever heard of that?
I'm actually curious if any. So once you would notice, like, the handprints, or which I'm like, it freaks me out because, like Mike and Sin, I've woken up with the fingerprints on my legs, so now I'm scared. First of all,
wait till we get deeper into this phenomenon. You'll start to see it, and well, we need to make eye contact with the darkness that's making eye contact with us. Period. It has to happen. And what these women will realize, go ahead.
Are you talking incubus, succubus, or are you saying that is something that we put the label on and that's not what it is?
It's a label. Now, this goes all the way back to the late Iron Age, where we had ritual bowls that and in them there were incantations designed to ward against whatever these intelligences are. But essentially what occurs, like I said, the experiencer meets an entity that will veil itself. It'll look just like a husband, a boyfriend, or someone they would be sexually attracted to. And during this encounter, they're thinking it's just a nightmare. It's just a dream. The next day they wake up and realize that there are ligature marks on their hands, on their wrists, on their legs, and bruises that directly correlate with the experience they had with an entity the night before. Now, this is, again, these are incubi and succubi, but in my book, The Skin That Crawls, I talk about how these are not a who. That's just the mask. They are a how. It's the modus operandi of this intelligence. This is how it self-replicates. It will inseminate the woman with the fetus and then place its consciousness in it and remove both at the same time. Now, we first seen these case studies in deep incubi, succubi literature, also witch-air literature, which now, in the modern interpretation, the modern incarnation, it's the missing fetus syndrome in ufology. It's not. It's actually just another, like I said, it's another mask, but it's been occurring for forever.
See, I think
go deeper, depending on what you want to know.
The succubus I always saw the succubus as just men writing history. The mermaids, trouble. Succubus.
Yeah, the succubus attacked men, didn't it?
Yeah, it was just a female thing. In my head, it was always like they were blaming female. Again, sorry guys, it's just how they were.
Right.
They were always blaming female. You guys were the fall guy for everything. Like, stay away from mermaids, stay away from those, the witches. This is nothing good. Nothing good comes. But yeah, I always thought succubus was just a female entity was trying to take a male soul. Not until I get older that I consider that it's just a succubus and it's just looking. So,
Mike, can I clarify something with Nathan real quick?
Yeah, you can't.
Because I feel like we're kind of dancing around stuff. We're saying things like singular intelligence and phenomena. So, but to be clear, we are talking about alien intelligence then, or could this possibly be, are we saying it could be what people call God? And it's all the same thing?
In terms of the negative intelligence, it does appear to be singular. Now, the reason I suggest that is because when the National Institute of Discovery Science for Robert Bigelow went to Skinwalker Ranch, for instance, they went there, they financed everything, they put out all of their technology. And at first, okay, yeah, it was extraterrestrial, but the longer they stayed there, they realized that this intelligence was manifesting as ghosts, deceased loved ones that were appearing to people, possessing security guards, cryptids. And when they looked at that, they thought, okay, you know, is it possible that in the past we've compartmentalized the phenomenon? And in doing so, we've compartmentalized the intelligence behind it, right? Oh, it's a multitude. But the evidence that we're collecting now, it's suggesting we're dealing with an intelligence that's diversified its identity. Because if it can convince us that the incubi victims are completely separate than the abductees in ufology, then we'll never have them sit down and have a coherent conversation with each other where they compare scarifications and skin anomalies. And then at the very end, you had a missing fetus too? Oh, yes, right? And then you pull all of these walls off and you realize they're not walls, they're bridges. And by virtue of it evolving, again, according to our awareness of it, it's allowed us to believe certain things in order to hide from us. So I'm going to finish with this, then we can move on to another point or another question. It evolves in order to evade.
Oh, yeah, that's the smartest reason to evolve.
There we go. So that's why there's, yes, it leans into the mask and then it'll lean out of it. And that's why in times past, that's this and this and this, not realizing, just like a serial killer, you're sure it'll have aliases all day long. But its modus operandi, the methodology, right, in these case studies are virtually identical.
So you're basically saying that what people used to call, like how Sin would say vase, I might say vase. But we're talking about the same goddamn thing. It's just because of the timeline, the time frame, the beliefs that were in probably favor, right? When one's more popular than the other, you probably get a lot more demons around that time. I would figure they would call them that more. So what is this just the negative that we live with? Or is this its own is this something from someplace else? In other words, when did this start? Did this start with us, or did this start at some point? Because it seems like if you're going to say that everything kind of then it started with us. It's almost like maybe we were the light, it was and here we are. Which no one believes me with that one because I feel like we're fighting it every day. But that's my own head.
Well, let's take a look at it real quick. Right now, there is a scientist working with NASA, working with our government. His name's Tim Taylor. And he's in charge of different rocket programs. Very, very intelligent guy. Amazing credentials behind his name. And wouldn't you know that the way he's contacting this intelligence is not by sending probes out into space with NASA. It's by literally building earthen altars out in the middle of a Mexican desert. Literally an altar to contact extraterrestrials. See, what the problem that we're finding now, my friends, is that even though this incarnation may be modern, it's an extraterrestrial, the incantations are ancient. So if that's the model we're working on, then that would mean disclosure is not going to happen. Disclosure happened in antiquity. Making sense? Because that's how the phenomenon is responding to us right now.
You know what it is? In my head, I'm realizing, like in 20 years or so, 30 years ago or so, when I'm dead and people of my age are dead, I think people are gonna, like, I don't want to say buy into, but go along with that theory better, because there's still a lot of people that are stuck with how you grew up. Whatever you grew up in your beliefs, so you're kind of stuck in those. And some people, especially when you get older, man, you'll dig your heels into certain things, and it's tougher to get through to. They say old dogs don't learn a new trick, kind of like they've had enough. But do you think, like, in the future, like as the generations clip, this what you're saying is actually easier to get people to come to the table, so to speak, from both sides?
I'm hoping so, but even now, within secular ufology, materialists say, okay, this is all nuts and bolts phenomenon, right? And even experiencers. One famous experiencer, oh, I see these big balls of light in my front yard, and the extraterrestrial crawled out of it. And what's happened again, we build walls. And in doing that, we fail to include other case studies that could give us insights into our own, right? And so this experiencer working with the Pentagon, oh my God, this ball of light was in my front yard and a being crawled out of it. What's the difference between that and Dr. Barry Taft's experience, the San Pedro haunting, when they cornered a ball of light in the room and an apparition crawled out of it?
Right.
Same methodologies. Now, the only difference is in the San Pedro haunting, that entity tried to hang jet wheatcraft in the attic. So are these entities good or are they bad? Or is it more beneficial to take a macro measure of it and say, okay, can we include these? And if we do, what does this phenomenon have to say?
Right.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So we're talking about really the same thing in as far as these studies and what paranormal investigators are looking at, which is the study of consciousness. Where is the consciousness? Where does it come from? And is it originating from us as humans, or are there other types that exist? So if the goal was for these entities to replicate through women's wombs in order to bring consciousness into existence, is that what we consider their motive is? Because there's other types of experiencers, right? There's men, there's women who can't bear children. So what's the end goal, in your opinion, then?
Well, you're correct. Self-replication of species is one of the key markers that no matter how many incarnations this phenomenon has, it keeps reincorporating that. You know what I mean? Okay, yeah, it's a demon yesterday. Well, okay, I'm going to be an extraterrestrial today. But when I do create a new mask, I'm still going to have remnants of the old one in it. And so the hybridization program is a common thematic element, antiquity to modernity. And they're still doing it. And I think that's why it's so important for not just researchers, but experiencers to understand. They're monitoring fertility. Dr. Carla Turner had a case study where they were taking a 10-year-old to the point where they had to give her a hysterectomy in order for the phenomenon to stop. So whatever we're dealing with here, it's highly intelligent, highly malevolent when it wants to be. And I liken it, everybody's like, okay, well, does it do more good things than it does bad? Well, I would suggest that that's not really what's going on. It's the depth of the darkness, right? That's what we're looking at, the depth of depravity. I mean, when you have to give a 10-year-old a hysterectomy because these beings are trying to replicate through her, we have a significant problem with the model in the field.
Well, what's their goal, Nathan? So if they replicate and they come in, what do we think their goal is? What is the end goal for this?
The idea here is, because you got to get through a lot, not you, but I'm speaking in general terms here. People have to sift through the nuances of literature and the case studies. And okay, well, a lot of times the research will project, religious motifs on it. But there are cases where you make eye contact with the phenomenon for a fleeting moment, right? Where there are no masks, you see it for what it is. And at those times, it's important for us to document it, to understand it. So in the 16th century, this is one of those cases where the phenomenon demasked and we see it for what it was. Women were being induced into dream states and the entities were manifesting according to the likeness of their mates. That's what the one text says, husband, a boyfriend, but it would inseminate them with a fetus. Now, when they would go to the exorcist, this is powerful, the entity was also implanting consciousness in them. So let's back up and say, because I want to make sure everybody understands this. The entity meets them in the dream state. Then it possesses them. It commandeers their body as a social skin. These women go to the exorcist. This happened in Israel. And these exorcists are asking the entity that's possessing them questions. As they're asking them questions, they notice that this woman is pregnant. That was when they realized that she was not inseminated by the entity in her dreams. She was pregnant with the entity in her dreams. The model is flawed. Yes, that's the darkness. And so that's when they realized that when this phenomenon took the consciousness that possessed the woman, it also took the fetus with them. So what we're looking at, essentially, it's not, let me back up and say this. Our model is wrong because we've always been taught that the female, the woman, is the host, right? Mm-hmm. That's not what the evidence suggests. The evidence suggests that the baby itself is the host. The fetus is the host of the consciousness that woman encountered in the dream state.
So
this is how it self-replicates.
It impregnates the woman, takes over the woman, but impregnates it with itself. With itself.
Right. So yes, okay, so you have the fetus, and then you have the consciousness in it. Both of them simultaneously existing. To the point that the exorcist felt 2 heartbeats in the same body. 2 pulses in the same body. What this means is the current model of hybridism within ufology is flawed. Because remember what I said before? They failed to look at history. They're just looking at the newest modern incarnation. And so this is identical. So yes, the entity they met in their dreams, they were pregnant with in their womb. This is why we can no longer romanticize a lot of this phenomenon. Because that entity is looking to possess a fetus. And I can go deeper, but I wanted to make sure everybody gets it. It gets weirder, by the way.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what.
Pretty weird already.
If it gets weirder, I'm in. Because let me tell you something right now. I'm thinking this thing comes down and so here's the thing. Let me go back. So, Sarah, can I give you my version of the end game? What the end game is?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So in my head and in my version and in my experience now, there is no end game. This has been a game since the beginning, and it's going to be a game till the end. I keep saying that it's here, whatever you think it is, it's always been here, and it's kind of like our other half in a weird sort of way. Every day, we have it, and we battle it in our bodies, and some days we decide to be like 90% good, 10%, is a little bit wrong. As long as you stay, I think, above like 60, 65, 70, as long as you can get a passing grade, you're okay by me. I'll give you that 20% if that's what you got to do that day. But like, it's a constant battle. So I don't think there's an end game. I don't even think it wants to win, Nathaniel. I think it wants to compete and just every now and then pose its will and just show what it can do. But it doesn't seem like it's trying to like close the game out, if that makes sense.
Well, if we're looking at the model that ufology is currently employing, yes. But again, as we navigate our way through this labyrinth of deception, we see that there's a separate model that I'm introducing. I'll be lecturing in Manchester, UK next month, and I'm going to be introducing it there. It's the parasitic model. Yep. You have the host and you have the hybrid.
Right.
And these people out there saying, well, if there is such a threat, why wouldn't they kill us all? That again, it's kind of antiquated, dogmatic thinking. If it is parasitic in nature, it's in its best interest to keep the host alive, not to kill it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's very important to strip the labels and constantly flip the model until it fits. And so that's the idea. Of course, they're going to look for fertility. I mean, the case that I had in India, if I may, one woman said that she was approached by one entity, but it approached her in the image of all 7 lovers that she's had in life.
Just 7?
And this is this is very specific because it first approached her in the image of the men that she did not make wear protection. Why? Because that increases the probability of consummation and insemination. So even if we look at that, we see not just the malevolence present, but the ability to appeal to the senses we utilize the most to interpret reality. And then often, and I'll stop with this because I don't want to ramble, but we're blinded by what we see.
So just
like a nightmare.
Just a real recap. I would love to use Antiquity to Maternity as a song name, if you'd let me. I also want to say, basically, we're dealing with sexual parasites.
Yes.
And then I'm interested in the men What do they care about us? Right?
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. Montague Summers and Father Sinistrari believed that the very first succubi. Again, we're going to be dealing with these occult these occult connections. Okay, the very first succubi were not taking seed from living men. Father Sinistrari was collecting samples. They believed that they were reanimating recently deceased males, and then taking that and trying to create a hybrid. So it's the intelligence behind it's obviously highly manipulative, but even just talking about this is outside of the parameters of ufology. It's proven to us. This has been around for a much longer time than a lot of people want it to be.
Point of note, the one thing so far, this whole conversation that I've had the hardest time believing into is they were getting out of dead guys.
It's fun.
That's hard to see, man. Like that, I got to be honest right there on a straight dumb level. I would think at that point, ain't nothing to get. So
Israel's doing it right now.
It's not like they're getting blood. That would be somewhat simpler. They're getting something that has to be is a totally different thing. So that's why it's hard for me to believe they get it from dead guys. And I don't want to believe that because then we can get rid of men altogether. But go ahead.
Oh, it's weird. Israel's doing that right now.
Getting rid of men for that reason?
Yes, absolutely. Deceased soldiers, yes, they will preserve the body and they're harvesting seed to create another baby. So this is nothing new. It's new to us, not the phenomenon. And so it's fascinating. But I mean, whatever we're dealing with, guys, and I said this earlier on another show I did today, where in some ways the phenomenon is a mirror of ourselves as a species. Like when you're dealing with sometimes the cognitive interface it employs, oh, it's a former lover. Oh, it's a deceased person. A lot of these images they're manifesting as, they're literally getting it out of our minds. And so a lot of times they're 4 steps ahead because as we evolve, so do they. They evolve as well. And so what I'm leaning more towards is that we can only know the phenomenon to the extent that we know ourselves. How are we evolving? Because it's going to evolve according to our awareness of it. I know that's heavy and deep, but it's very much the case. In the 40s, I'm sorry?
Everything kind of works that way. We can't know things outside of our frame of reference. So if something's trying to interact with us, it has to act within our frame of reference at that given point in time. Like,
correct.
You know,
I know that's a good point. The evolution mechanism is important to mark, okay? Because, like I said, it evolves in order to evade. In other words, in times past, like when it manifests as Dear Aunt Edna, or it manifests as deceased lover, if you will, for incubi cases, we would have the ability in a way to test the spirits. The entity would put on a mask and would say, okay, are you manifesting the behavioral patterns of the person you're claiming to be? And in most cases, the entity would, don that mask, and where Dear Aunt Edna would zag, it would zig. And then the experiencer would be like, you can't be Dear Aunt Edna. There's something off. Well, now what the program's done is it's introduced another character into the game, one which we cannot vet as easily. And that is the extraterrestrial.
Right. That's a good point.
But see, the issue I have then with this is when it's replicating. Now, I would think that it would want to replicate and go to places of power, places of control, places to cause constant fighting, constant bickering, constant separation. I would think that's what something negative would want. Is that at all in your universe of stuff?
To maintain power, to maintain the image of the certain mask it wants to wear. Absolutely. See, when we get into the fact that it was considered to be a demon, it would lean into that archetype. And more than that, it would play the role so much so that in some malevolent hauntings, the priest would go out there, throw a couple holy waters out, deuces, and the entity would leave. And for a fleeting moment, sometimes the intelligence behind that mask would eclipse it, and it would step out. And when it steps out, it plays by no known rules, right? Because the rules it was supposed to play by just correlated with the mask it was wearing. This is why I was talking to a friend of mine from Darkness Radio, and he said that he was on a case, it was a malevolent haunting, and the priest put out a vial of holy water, put it in the middle of a room. Everybody sat back out in the hallway. Their EMVPs, they were capturing all kinds of stuff. EMF meter was going crazy. And they watched in real time as this entity would power up, and it was draining the vial of holy water down to where there was nothing. Now, we have two options here. Some people would say, well, that must have been an alien, or that must have been something completely different than a demon.
Cracking the vial.
Right. What if that was the real intelligence demonstrating what it has over and over again? When we think we know what rules it plays by, it eclipses that microcosm and stretches itself out. And now we realize what even practitioners of the occult do. We are not in control of the situation. We thought we were. Whatever that is in the darkness, they're in control. Mm-hmm. And that's not just practitioners realizing that. People in our federal government are realizing that as well.
So, Sin, before I key you for a question, so all right. I have weird. It's weird that we're on this topic because this is something that I'm more deeply into than I would usually let on, because I don't usually like to let on stuff. But I feel like it's so someone like you can walk in someplace and feel almost what's wrong with it, or if there's some sort of darkness in it. There's literally that kind of thing. And so I think when you accept the fact that there is the dark side, this really just negative, do what it's got to do. If you don't stare it in the face, if you don't stare it down, then I think that's when it gets the advantage. I think if you're willing to like stare, just pick all the things that, like, I've done wrong in life, and I look at them. At least if I stare into the darkness of everything, it's more like I'm at least holding my own ground, and there's a better feeling about that. Whereas when I don't, and if my head goes down like a boxer, if I stare you in the eye, the first one to blink or look the other way, you're going to lose because you just broke eye contact with me. I know I have you. And that's kind of what you do with the darkness. It feels like to me like that's something that's common with everybody. It goes by different names. It goes by different phenomena. I think it goes more. It goes deeper than just paranormal. Is what I'm trying to say. I think it's just how it is. Sarah, am I making any sense to you?
Yeah, you're making total sense to me, and this is why, like, when we were investigating the paranormal here in Florida, we tried to recognize cases where we were having almost like poltergeist type interactions and look at those from other points of view of it possibly being also extraterrestrial. And we were finding all this crossover. So it would make sense if it was the same thing, just presenting in different ways and presenting in ways that, because what it sounds like is almost being intentional, what equipment it interacts with, how it's
100%. That's irrefutable at that. Yes, irrefutable. It wants to be seen. It will. Like when I was a kid, I grew up in a haunted house, and this particular entity was manifesting as everything. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear a full-blown conversation going on above my head. It wanted to be heard, but it did not want to be understood. So it was far enough from me. Like literally, it's weird as heck. I understand. But whatever we're dealing with, I mean, like, again, going back to the Skinwalker Ranch case study, their investigators were present, right, at Skinwalker. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away at their own home, poltergeist activity was occurring.
Yeah.
So is it possible that even cryptids and poltergeist activity, it's almost a control mechanism or a defense mechanism? When we get too close to something, we don't even know what it is. The phenomenon employs that to push us back. So everything's on the table at this point, but the evidence is suggesting more and more that what we are witnessing in real time is an entity that is manipulating us as a species. If I can get you to believe that I have diversified hold on, let me say this. If I can get you to believe I am a completely different intelligence, I'm alien, then we would never look at the ghost. It's out there. It's not in here, right? And so we just kind of splinter it, not realizing that we're being hoodwinked and that we are being manipulated.
Sin,
Mike,
what do you got?
you know, Nathaniel, when I came on this, I was thinking 180 degrees opposite. So I'm fascinated with this entire interview and realize how much I'm completely lost.
We all are.
Everything that I have heard and thought and, spoken of, heard of, everything.
Well,
You okay, Sin?
Sin,
I look okay right now.
check
Are you
this out.
okay?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Hear this out though. So we started doing the paranormal show, and it was like maybe 6 or 7 shows in when I made the comment. Well, why couldn't like extraterrestrials and Bigfoot and all that stuff be all the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I got laughed at. I got made fun of. Everybody on the show, my co-hosts, the guests, everybody. And then they would bring it up the next couple of weeks that I said that to make fun of it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the paranormal investigator. Ooh, you know what I mean? Like I can't figure things out. I don't have intelligent thoughts. Like it was just like, well, why can't it be? It's all the same thing. And the thing with Bigfoot makes sense because, like I've always said, I have a hard time with Bigfoot people because when they say they find it, they run away. It doesn't make that doesn't the idea of going looking for something to see it and then just run away has not made sense to me yet. It's like I've always said, I'm looking for my keys. I find my keys. Then I just throw them down in the living room so I can go look again. What's the point? If I'm going to go, that's my Bigfoot. But no one ever does that. They all run away. So what is it creating that just causes men to just drop it and go? That's manipulation somehow.
Yeah. In the point that I made a little bit earlier, when you think about it, it's deeper than just what's at the surface. When the phenomenon manifested, okay, let me back up and say this. I was poring over copious amounts of case studies about ikigai, okay? Constantly, okay? It was the same modus operandi, deep sleep, entity would mask itself as a former lover, and then it's over and over again. I'm thinking, there's got to be more than just the mask, right? There's got to be the belief that that entity is the person it's emulating. In these scenarios, it's like the belief is, okay, yeah, I believe you are who you appear to be. And then that entity fulfills the role. It leans even more into the mask. And what I'm afraid of is that we have created pockets of research, even researchers, who've spent 70 years groping in the darkness of this modern incarnation, not realizing, right, that they were contacting aliens from Ouija boards in the 40s.
Right.
It's a very unique situation.
Well, at this point, Mike, I'm sorry. I gotta ask for my own personal sanity. I have to ask Nathan a question. Because so if you're investigating a poltergeist case, and you start to realize it's more extraterrestrial, you then try to make contact and let's just say that you see that extraterrestrial's face during that contact.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
The bruises.
During a Gansfeld session, I saw it. It tried to communicate with me. I then went home and I started experiencing things in my house. All the doors locked from the inside, bedrooms with no one in the bedrooms. I was waking up with handprints, bruises on my legs that there was no way that I could do. And in fact, a message was then given to the person whose house I was at that said, tell Sarah what happened to her was just a warning. But I'm not pregnant. So what the heck's that about?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying they're trying to replicate through every womb, but the wombs they are replicating through, they are behavioral patterns that are usually 90% there. But did you know that you're not the only one? Like, because I don't want you to feel alone. I mean, that's sometimes a phenomenon will do that, exclude you. Yeah. During the skull experiment in England, this is in the 90s, they were in the parlor, they had a basement, but they were using Ouija boards and trying to contact deceased spirits, and Mr. Blue manifested. Bluish tint to it, big bulbous eyes. When that occurred, they shut down the entire seance because of the unspeakable terror that filled the room. So if anything, I think that you witnessed, again, how it's right all at once. So you're a testimony to what we're talking about tonight.
Is it coming back? Because I'm a little scared right now.
I wish I did know. I don't know. I would document anything and everything, though. Like even the emotions you felt in the moment, because in the future you could use that, and other researchers could as well.
Question for you. So if there is this parasite, this dark entity that's constantly been going on the whole time, different forms, is it possible that there's like a white blood cell of species that's been trying to fight it the whole time? Because if there's sometimes you will get our evolution. So wouldn't the good side evolve to where it has like the white blood cell people that their goal is to try to stop this?
So this is a model that I've been asking about myself. You know, there was an evangelical researcher that reached out to me. So the idea is that if you're in the middle of the situation, you call on the name of a deity or call on the name of a religious figure, and the phenomenon stops. At this point in my research, I don't know if that is stopping because that's the propaganda, and then when the true intelligence arrives, it just eclipses that, because there are cases like that. Matter of fact, you're in Rhode Island, right?
Yep.
Well, years ago, I was reading about a case, and it wasn't even mine. I was just reading about it. And it was about a woman who was being abducted from her youth, and she had done everything, studied all different religions. Well, she finally got into Christianity, and specifically to stop them from taking her. And so she got saved, baptized. She's in her room at night. She feels that overpowering energy enter, and she knows from her youth, right? Oh my God, they're here. So what does she do? Gets her Bible out, starts reading the Lord's Prayer. And in doing that, she's thinking, okay, thank God it's going to, he's going to intervene or something. And in the middle of reading, her eyes roll back in her head and they take her. That's when I stopped everything and I flew out to Rhode Island and literally ate like a god on Federal Hill for a week because I had to disconnect. Because again, I did, brother. I got there left at 11. But so are these models, again, propaganda? Is this just another feeble attempt to place the vial of holy water in the room? It worked in the other case. Why is it working now? Now, even Father Sinistro of Amino is a Franciscan priest, and he was doing exorcisms and he was studying incubi cases. Yeah. His victims were having symbols carved underneath their eyelids by these entities.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh man, it's like a serial killer. And then finally one day he's on a dirt road coming back from dinner, and an entity comes out of the woods. And he's looking at this thing and he's trying, and he's, okay, what kind of demon is this? Here's the holy water. He did exactly what anybody would do in his position. Here's the holy water. Here's my amulets. Here are scriptures. And it just looked at him and then disappeared. So what are we really dealing with here is the question.
Can I tell you, can I expand on that? I don't think it's the symbols. I don't think it's the water, the reading of a Bible, anything. I mean actual people Like, because there's a thing about when you shake someone's hand, you touch someone, there's a contact, there's a weird energy transition. So I feel like there's buffers. People that are like almost like, how do I say this? They go into like a paranormal room and everything kind of just gets quiet for a little while. Like, couldn't we evolve to have that? I mean, because they're fighting us. Right? It's been going on forever. It's been documented forever. One thing we do is evolve. One thing we do is figure out how to get over our sickness. You give us the flu once, as humans, we're going to figure out how to try to beat it, hopefully, the next time. That's kind of how it goes. Right. My theory is, couldn't there be people that have, I don't want to say they're inseminated by good, because that's just weird, but they're just, they're the white to the black. They're just the other side of the coin.
Yes. Okay, to answer that question, we don't know where we are at this point in time. Dr. Carla Turner hypothesized that we may only know of these experiences because the phenomenon is allowing them to remember. Mm-hmm. Or the phenomenon doesn't want them to remember, but they are coming to consciousness. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, okay, I have a story to tell. If that's the case, then there would be, at least if it's not physical, spiritual, an evolutionary presence within us that is evolving, right? Building a wall of immunity, or at the very least coming awake and saying, all right, what is this intelligence doing exactly? I'm not going to trust it. You know what I mean? But whatever we are dealing with, it, like I said, there's this symbiotic relationship. It evolves according to our awareness of it. And so in the 40s, the abductees, oh yeah, well, we need to stop nuclear war. Why? Because that's exactly what they were afraid of. And then when you have the New Age movement dipping in the early 90s and then moving on throughout Europe and then the Americas, what is it? Oh, we're trying to raise your consciousness. Mm-hmm. We're trying to enlighten you. And the problem is, and this is with each and every case, when the phenomenon manifests to our senses, it's courting, like dating, opening the door, paying for the dinner. It's courting our human condition. And by doing that, it's appearing first to our senses that we utilize the most to interpret reality. That would mean its target is not our eyes. It's something completely different. It's just manifesting to us, right? Yeah. By virtue of what we see. And this is why right now in modernity, we have case studies and experiencers where they are now validating the entity's message based upon the entity's miracle. Look what it did. See, it must be telling us the truth. And what we're witnessing in real time is this program evolving to where it fixes its own bugs. Right. Well, you can't tell me I don't have a historical record or that it doesn't match. There is no historical record to match. Right? Now you've got to go strictly off of the manifestation I am providing. And that's a scary place. Well, the government was there. Therefore, the entity was to be telling me the truth. How many times have we heard that from experiencers?
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going on and on because that's what I tend to do. But at this point in time, it's just a lot.
So basically, what you're worried that the infiltration of it is already too far. I don't want to say too far gone, but maybe too far to pull back. Like we did a shitty job of recognizing what was going on and not allowing the Reese's Pieces to match up when we just kept thinking like, oh, there's the Three Musketeers. Well,
always the Reese's Pieces with this guy.
I like candy. What I'm trying to say is we were just basically calling it different things, which allowed it to grow, in your opinion, right? And then figure out. Yeah. So then all the aliens we're seeing now, all the UFOs they want to show us on the TV there, as the young kids say. All of a sudden now, why? Why manifest stuff like that to confuse us now? What? I mean, let me put it this way: what other reason to slowly drip us UFO stuff, if not to prepare us for something much bigger? Yeah, I can't think of a reason. You?
Yeah. Well, a lot of these UFOs are created in black budgets. They are. DARPA has come out and said, yes, that was ours. They won't tell us for another 30 years. But yes, I mean, the Tic Tac stuff, we have this technology. And what it is it's better to suggest that craft is alien than it is to admit to our adversaries that's something we've been working on.
Without a doubt. See, And I'm with you on
Yeah.
that. That's 100%. Because the last thing you want it to be is some other country's new weapon.
Absolutely. And they don't want us to know that either. Yeah, that's aliens. No, it's probably China. You know what I mean? But
That's
that doesn't mean that's something. Yeah. So here's the problem with disclosure, though, is if it was just limited to, okay, yeah, there are alien or ships for, UAPs, UFOs. Okay, yeah. Well, we don't have superiority over our skies. That's one thing to admit that. But what they've realized is that when you admit these ships exist, you, by virtue of consequence, admit that these ships exist with occupants in them, which means now you have an entire population of abductees who have stories about these ships and these occupants, and not all of them are great.
Right. Oh, yeah. Not all of them are. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of aliens that are very
Yep.
good. There's like
There's
a
all
whole,
types of reports. Yep.
like a laundry list of from lizards to tall gray men to small gray men to
The Nordic Greys or the Nordic Whites.
it has all kinds of people. Sen,
Absolutely.
do you have anything you want to add? Because I
Yeah,
really,
they do. No, I want to ask something. So,
Yes.
when you started your studies and your researching, and to where you are now, what is the strangest thing that you have seen yourself?
Oh my God.
wait, strictly paranormal. Keep it
Yeah.
to the.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. No. Well, I was doing a lecture one day on scarifications, subdermal anomalies, and the correlation between UFO abductions and demonology.
Right.
And this individual reached out to me, and he's like, "Look," he goes, "we got to talk on the phone." So I'm on the phone. It's like January at 11 o'clock. I'm out there freezing my butt off, whatever. And we get to talking, and this individual's like, "Look," he goes, "I've got to talk to you," he said, "because a lot of what you were saying resonated with me." He said, "My father was a renowned remote viewer in our state." And he says, I can remember as a kid all the time, I'd be playing my gaming system and my dad would come downstairs, turn all the lights off, and sit in silence because there's an entity in the room that wants to communicate. And he said it was just crazy childhood. He said, but one day my dad went into an out-of-body experience to meet his guides. And he said that next thing you know, he said, my dad came down the stairs stumbling. He was incoherent. He couldn't talk. He could barely breathe. He had a massive heart attack. He said, when we got him to the hospital, they're cutting the shirt off of him. And when he's doing that, he said, there's just a lot of chaos. He said, but he said his dad's skin just started turning red. And from underneath the skin, subdermally, there were 3 religious amulets that pushed themselves to the surface.
What?
One was the Jewish Star of David. The other one was a cross. And then there was an arching Egyptian hieroglyph.
Wow.
This is why the current models are falling apart. Whatever that was,
Did he swallow?
whatever that was, no. Whatever that was akin to a Brahma and the Mage. If I can find it, that's the only reference. That's sorcery. That's not extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
And a Brahma and the Mage was obviously a magician, but I'm trying to find his book. Anyways, he talked about angel magic. This, again, guys, this points back right where we were with Tim Taylor and working with altars in New Mexico. This would mean that whatever intelligence we're dealing with, forget about the incarnations, look at the incantations. Because those amulets transcended the microcosm of demonology.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our practitioners, even in the occult, would be like, I don't even know what that is. But that is what his alleged guides were doing. But can I tell you also, when he went into that session, he was in a metallic room. Hello, UFO abduction. And these beings flanked him on the right and left sides. And he said, as he's looking at these guides of his, he starts to have the uneasy feeling that these were not his guides at all, that they were trying to appear as guides to him. And then this took place. Now, let's go back to a case that Dr. Carter Turner had, where an abductee who was a psychic medium was abducted by these beings. And then for the first time in his life, his guides fell silent. Why? Same intelligence, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like. And I've said that before and I've gotten slack for it, that we can't just always trust our own selves to know, oh yeah, this is definitely what this is, because things could be deceiving us. Absolutely. Things could be, just not what we think they are. And
all right, but what if you just looked at things as good or bad? And I mean, as far as energy, giving, taking, because like, in other words, to me, if it's bad, it's bad. I don't care what it is. If it's Bigfoot, if it's this, or the other. Right. It's just, if I feel the evil from it or badness from it, I can walk into a regular bar and I can tell you right away which two guys to stay away from. Like, that's just thing. I just can't. So when it comes to things like that, like, I worry more about what it does to the human social chain and society and governmental issues, way more than I worry about Bigfoot, things in the sky, or any of that other stuff. And it's not like I don't worry about that other stuff. I just always think that if there is true evil and it's among us and it's like that, it would have intelligence, and instead of being incarnated as Bigfoot, it would spend more of its time making it easier on itself by taking.
Couldn't it be that so just like, they say good people do bad things, bad people do good things. If this intelligence could absolutely be appearing as something good with the ulterior motive, like, I'm sure, like, much more patient than we are, playing the long game.
Yes.
I could play good for a while if it's going to meet my needs at the end.
Correct. I'll be Uncle Tommy or Uncle Joey, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Until that mask no longer fits the narrative, until I get what I needed. And then, okay, now I transcend that mask, right? And this is something that is not, it's not a one-off. I mean, it's pervasive all throughout Witcher literature. Yes, they're on demonic flights. Yes, the again, this is another characteristic. The phenomenon played into their belief system. These women believed they were having intercourse with demons and corpses. And yet, like in one of these cases, many of them actually, but one case that's the most documented, the phenomenon, call it a program or a technology, it fuzzed in and out. And like I said before, for a fleeting moment, they had eye contact with the true intelligence behind it. And it wasn't a demon or a corpse. They were being poked and prodded by metallic objects that were suited to feel, again, our senses, feel as real as possible. But yeah, what they thought was occurring to them wasn't occurring at all. And this is the danger of being blinded by what we see and deafened by what we hear. If that is occurring to us, it's targeting something ontologically, something in us that we are ignorant of. And that portion of our potentiality is what we have to evolve to in order to push the beasts back into the darkness.
So, all right. Would you agree that, I hate to sound like John Lennon, but love or community, or even just people coming together, that unity that has been broken up throughout the last couple of decades, even in front of my eyes, to where people won't even get 6 feet of each other. Allegedly, YouTube, don't strike me on that one. What I'm trying to say is, it seems like positivity, positive thought, acceptance, that stuff would be the opposite of what they would want, like light on the darkness. So that's why I keep going back to arguments, fighting, making things like just so decisive. You know what I mean? Just so you want to fight people over the dumbest things. And it's just like, that's where I feel like negative gets in. That's where I feel like the darkness seeps in. Like, because that's, again, much scarier to me than a UFO, unless it's from China. Then I'm with you. Because if it's those things that I've seen are from China, look, they can have the balloon. I don't care about the balloon. But those other things, we're in big trouble if someone has them and we don't. And if I found out we have them, we were flying them and didn't want to admit them, and we did some fake phony UFO trials to cover it up for a while, I'd believe that too. I guess I'm at a point where I don't know what I wouldn't believe. I'm not saying I believe it completely, but if I'll listen to it, Like I'll listen to someone's take and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, well that makes sense." So what do you do then? Let me ask you this as we wrap this up. What do you do to protect yourself, to protect people around you that you love? What can you do?
Well, there's two kinds of health we're talking about. Number one, mental health is specifically dealing with researchers. If you feel that you've gotten too close, the phenomenon will let you know. And at that point, cut everything out. Stop research, don't do investigations, disconnect as much as you possibly can, because in that moment, I've done it. I thought I was looking into the painting when I was truly looking into the painter. And the painter was also looking into me. At that point, I'm done. You know, that has to be learned and taught to not just experiencers, but researchers, more importantly. But aside from that, iron is a huge proponent. The very first case study I've had it's not even a case study. I've had case studies of it, but the very first understanding I received about iron was from an ancient Akkadian text where Lamashtu was an entity that would come down upon pregnant women, stare into their eyes, and steal the fetus. But in doing so, they created a second face out of iron, and they would wear it around their necks. And they believed also that it would ward these things off. So anything with iron in it.
Are we saying that iron is a good thing?
Yes.
That's yes. It helps.
Iron is a positive thing.
That goes way back to the horseshoe over the doors and stuff like that.
Graveyards, the whole shebang.
If you have an iron, I didn't say iron that time, just not to keep doing this.
Iron?
You had someone. When you have an iron deficiency, is that a bad sign? And I mean dead serious. Some of us have iron deficiencies.
I don't know. I have to look at that
system because if it's a positive thing and negative things, I think I'd rather have more in my body.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Doesn't the human human being has enough iron in their body to make a 2-inch nail, 1-inch nail? They did the math.
9-inch nails.
I was watching some dumb stupid dude. Yeah, 9-inch nails. You know what? There was no mosh pit to avoid more than
right.
Head Like a Hole and Rage Against the Machine. Whatever I forget the name of the song. But when those two songs hit, you knew to either get off the floor or get ready because it was on.
I loved Rage. Rage is awesome, man. Oh my god.
I do want to say
I'm a 90s kid.
Me too.
Yep.
Sarah?
I do want to say one thing. So Sin will probably agree with me that most of us females have had intercourse with a two-faced demon at one point, and we call them ex-husbands. Right. Sin? We now call them our ex-husbands. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know if iron keeps those away. I wish.
No, yeah. You're a different kind of experiencer, right? Okay. I experienced a succubus, and then we got divorced. It was that kind of thing.
See, it goes both ways.
I never knew I needed an exorcism, but yeah, we got rid of her. I'm just kidding. I'm going along with the thought here, but what a blast, guys! And I have ADHD, as you can tell, so I kind of and I'm used to nowadays. I'm used to just going on a show and like doing a whole hour of me talking. So that's why I'm like, where do I finish this? You know what I mean?
Oh no, I like that. I love that. I love that. That's how I am. I don't like standard conversations. I have a real conversation where someone just has to blurt.
Absolutely.
They want to say it, right? You got to get it out. So let's do a wrap up. Sin, what would you like to say to wrap up?
This has been a great, great, great show. Thank you, Nathaniel, for coming on here. I hope you come back because I have questions.
I'd love to.
This is like third or fourth time, Sin. He's wearing like.
I don't care. I want him to come back.
I'll tell you what. If you want, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
A few things. I think though, Sin, maybe we should have Nathaniel on like Paranormal 101 or one of the other shows where we can talk about these type of things because we haven't talked about demonology on Paranormal 101. If you're interested in doing that,
we do 11 shows a week now, dude.
Yeah.
Really?
Different topics for each one. Different versions of it, ways to spin it. Paranormal 101 is legit clips. We're reviewing the clips and audio stuff.
Is it legit?
Is it legit? That's just a check on everything. Is it real or not? Legit beefcakes, which is like me and Rick. We wear bow ties, and that's
Oh yeah, definitely.
that's the one that's not real. In case you're wondering at home.
I'd love to join you guys. For those who want, like Sin, if you want to, on my YouTube channel, there is a playlist of all of my guest appearances that were uploaded to YouTube. There's like 114 of them, and you can see as King Mike Ellis, yes, my hypothesis has evolved from like if you go down to the oldest to now, and yeah. So if you want, you can take a look at that.
It's grown. It's like a blob in that sense. Like the parameters of where he's gone is just kind of gone like this.
Yeah,
I've been watching and listening, man. People, that's the funny thing is people don't understand that for the last couple of years, I just sit in and soak in everything everyone tells me. And then I just, in my little dumb head, I bounce it around and I come out with my own version. Nathaniel, what would you like to say to wrap it up?
They're played by different rules because they're playing a different game.
That's true. Right.
And these are not walls that are keeping us out of different thoughts. They're bridges. And in order to win this game, we have to understand the rules they're playing by. Number two, they're evolving according to our awareness of it. And so to a degree, we can only know the phenomenon to the extent we know ourselves.
Right. That right there, that last line, know yourself, that's probably the heaviest line of the whole show because that's one of the toughest ones. As far as your upcoming events, just go to your Facebook page. Where do you want people to shoot over to?
Well, today's, let me see here. It's the 21st. I don't have any show. Actually, no. I'll be on Andy Decodes the 25th. But next month, I'm going to the UK to do a lecture series. And I'll be at the Awakening Conference with Steve Merritt, Barry Fitzgerald. These guys are beyond. They're incredible.
Barry's the guy that freaked me out the most. We had Barry on, and Barry was being all calm and passive, and he's usually more animated than that. And then he told me about this new dig they went on that was similar to Skinwalker Ranch, and he saw something underneath it and he used this word on me, changed his whole paradigm on life. And I'm like, you were just dropping this on me, and it just happened. It was like really heavy, and I'm like, really? That's like your whole view on things. I'm like, but I couldn't get him to tell me what it was. So I backtracked it and kind of Italian tricked them because I was mentioning how they thought there was a serpent underneath the Skinwalker Ranch. That's what they kept hearing. And then I asked him what he heard was it serpentine in nature. And he could barely let out a yeah. And I was just like freaked out because in his face, I could tell something freaked this guy out. And that guy seems like he's been through a lot. And he didn't have to do that for me. Like he didn't even add the face. I was already freaked out, but the face
they're the best researchers in the world, in my opinion. I mean, these guys just incredible. And what's unique about this is not only is demonology getting a seat at the table more than the last 50 years, at least. And that's not, I'm not saying that because I'm doing it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're paying attention to it now. Does it make sense? I hope so.
But
I don't want people to get the wrong impression.
You guys also jumped outside the box that I would see demonologists from like the 70s, like, religious. Right. And then it became like, well, maybe it's not just this one religion, maybe it's this, and then maybe it's all that, and then now we're out to here. So it's you guys.
It's wild, man. But anyways, they're my heroes. And in the last 3 or 4 years, 4 years ago, I was never you knew me, I was never on a show. I didn't do anything. And then now to go and lecture with them, it's incredible. I'm humbled and honored, but it's going to be the dark side of ufology, and I'll be lecturing about the self-replication of species, and we'll see. But you guys have been a blast. I'm going to go
drink like crazy, buddy. You're going to have a drink like crazy.
Oh, I don't know, man. We're trying.
Guys, for Sin Schrader Hill, author. 4, Sarah Paranormal. 4, Nathaniel J. Gillis. It's me, Michael W. King, Mike Yell. This was Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for following. Check out Nathaniel on his Facebook page or come ask me, and I'll tell you where you can find him. We'll see you tomorrow.